Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth that has transformed nations, shifted destinies, and rebuilt broken lives. Nothing changes until your mind changes. You can change your clothes, change your friends, change your address, or even change your job. But if you do not change your mind, life will eventually drag you back to the same condition you tried to escape. The human mind is the womb of all reality. Every experience you have is interpreted by your mind. Every goal you set, every relationship you engage in, every opportunity you see or miss, it all begins with how you think. That's why one of the most dangerous things on earth is an unchanged mind in a changed environment. Some people are praying for God to change their circumstances, but God is waiting for them to change their thinking. He will not give you what your mind is unprepared to handle. Promotion without preparation is a curse. That's why the first thing that must be transformed is not your finances, not your family, not even your physical health, it is your mindset. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Why? Because your mind is your world. You don't see life as it is, you see life as you are. A poor mind in a rich house will still produce poverty. A fearful mind in a safe place will still feel threatened. A limited mind in a land of opportunity will still live in lack. I tell you today, the greatest deliverance is not from people, it is from faulty thinking. Some of us are in prison, not because of bars of steel, but because of bars of belief. And until your thinking changes, your behavior cannot change. Until your mind changes, your decisions won't either. And if your decisions remain the same, your destiny is on repeat. Real transformation does not begin with external circumstances. It begins within. When people think of change, they often look outward. They want their job to change, their finances to increase, their relationships to improve, or their environment to become more favorable. But the truth is, none of those things can bring lasting transformation until something shifts internally. The human experience is not governed primarily by external realities, it is governed by the condition of the mind. What happens around you is secondary to what happens within you. That's why many people can be in the same environment, exposed to the same opportunities, and yet produce completely different outcomes, because their internal world determines how they interact with their external world. When a person's mind has not changed, even blessings can become burdens. You can place someone in a new relationship, but if they are still carrying old patterns of thinking, they will sabotage that relationship. You can give someone a business opportunity, but if their mind is still trapped in fear, self-doubt, or poverty thinking, they will mismanage it. This is why you often see people who win large amounts of money lose it quickly, or those who escape a toxic environment end up recreating the same dysfunction elsewhere. The problem is not the opportunity, it's the mind managing it. Every human being lives not in the world that is, but in the world they perceive, and perception is shaped by mindset. That means transformation must begin with a renewed perception, a new lens through which you see life. If your mind is darkened by fear, insecurity, bitterness, or low self-worth, no amount of light outside will make a difference. You will interpret everything through the shadows within. Until your thinking is elevated, your life remains at ground level. This is why true education is not just the transfer of information. It is the reformation of thinking. You don't need more facts, you need more clarity. You don't just need to know what's happening. You need to understand why it's happening and how your internal responses are shaping the outcomes you keep experiencing. That's the kind of change that sticks. Because when you shift internally, you change your default responses. You start seeing things you used to ignore. You begin responding in ways you never thought you could. You make different decisions not because someone told you to, but because your understanding has deepened. And when understanding deepens, behavior follows. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that changing locations will change their lives. So they move from city to city, from one relationship to another, from job to job, hoping to outrun their frustrations. But frustration follows you when it lives inside you. You cannot relocate your way out of a mental stronghold. You must confront it, dismantle it, and rebuild a new pattern of thought. Otherwise, life becomes a cycle of running without arriving, searching without finding, trying without transforming. The truth is, your future is already present. It's hidden in your current mindset. That's where your potential lies. Your mind is the soil, and your thoughts are the seeds. You can only harvest what you've planted. If you plant doubt, you will harvest hesitation. If you plant vision, you will harvest purpose. If you plant excuses, you will harvest stagnation. But if you plant discipline, clarity, and renewed truth, you will reap transformation. The mind is the gateway to destiny. Everything that becomes reality in your life passes first through your mind. Your thoughts act as gatekeepers. What you permit to dominate your thinking will eventually shape your decisions, your character, and your future. Nothing enters your life unless your mind gives it permission. You may not always be able to control what comes against you, but you are responsible for what you allow to take root in your thoughts. The direction of your life is always determined by the direction of your thinking. That's why the most powerful tool a human being possesses is not their hands, their voice, or their talents. It is their ability to think, reason, imagine, and believe. Your destiny is not something waiting in a far-off place. It is something being built daily through the patterns of your mind. Whatever dominates your thoughts will eventually dominate your behavior. This is why the mind is so powerful. You cannot consistently live in a way that is inconsistent with the way you think. Even if you try to act differently, your internal belief system will eventually pull you back to what is familiar. If you see yourself as unworthy, no amount of external validation will make you feel secure. If you believe you are always a victim, even opportunities will look like threats. Your mind filters how you interpret people, situations, and even God's promises. You don't respond to what happens, you respond to how you perceive what happens. This is why destiny is not just about ambition. It is about alignment. When your thoughts align with truth, with purpose, and with the principles that govern success, your life begins to flow in a new direction. The battles you used to fight, you no longer need to fight. The fear you used to carry begins to dissolve, not because the world changed, but because your mind changed. When your mind expands, your life expands with it. When your thoughts rise, your actions rise. And when your actions rise, your results begin to follow suit. The mind is always the first mover. Before a step is taken, a thought is formed. Every innovation in the world, every revolution, every business, every ministry, every work of art or literature, it all began in the mind of someone who dared to think differently, and that same power exists within you. You are not a prisoner of your circumstances. You are a product of your mindset. That's why two people can face the same situation, and one will rise while the other sinks. The difference isn't what happened, it's how their mind interpreted it. One saw it as a setback, the other as a setup. One saw a problem, the other saw a possibility. One saw the end, the other saw the beginning. Your mindset is not just about what you think. It is about how you think. What are your default responses when pressure comes? When someone criticizes you? When an opportunity arises? These responses reveal your inner programming, and that programming can either take you closer to your destiny or drive you further from it. Your destiny is never locked outside of you. It's always unfolding from within. If you believe that you are called to something greater, your mind must be trained to think in alignment with that calling. That means letting go of small thinking, emotional immaturity, and mental habits that no longer serve where you're going. There are people who have all the gifts, all the resources, and all the potential, but they remain stuck for years. Not because of external opposition, but because of internal limitations. They have not yet realized that success doesn't come when things change around you. It comes when things change inside you. Your thoughts either unlock your future or keep you chained to your past. And until you shift the way you see yourself, your decisions will never reflect the true depth of who you are designed to become. Changing your environment cannot substitute for changing your mindset. Many people spend their lives trying to alter what is around them, assuming that if they can just relocate, upgrade, or rearrange their circumstances, then everything will fall into place. They move from one city to another, change careers, enter new relationships, or pursue fresh goals, all with the hope that this external shift will finally bring peace, progress, or fulfillment. But what often goes unnoticed is that wherever you go, you take yourself with you. You bring your thoughts, your habits, your beliefs, and your mental patterns. And if those remain unchanged, the new environment will eventually start to look like the old one. You cannot outrun your mindset. The environment may change the scenery, but it cannot change your internal reality. If your mind is filled with fear, insecurity, bitterness, or confusion, those elements will manifest in whatever space you occupy. A person who is anxious will still be anxious in a quieter city. A person who lacks discipline will still mismanage resources in a higher paying job. A person who struggles with trust will still experience tension in a new relationship. This is because it is not the environment that creates the mindset. It is the mindset that shapes how the environment is perceived and used. A poor mindset in a wealthy space will still produce lack. A fearful mindset in a stable space will still feel unsafe. An ungrateful mindset in a blessed space will still feel dissatisfied. This truth confronts the illusion that location, status, or association automatically leads to transformation. It challenges the belief that a better atmosphere alone will unlock a better life. While a good environment can support growth, it cannot substitute for the internal work that true change requires. Real growth demands a shift in how you think, not just where you live or what you do. What shapes your life is not merely your surroundings, but your interpretation of those surroundings. Two people can sit in the same room and have entirely different experiences. One sees opportunity, the other sees threat. One feels empowered, the other feels exposed. The difference is not the room. It is the lens through which each person is viewing the room. That lens is crafted by mindset. It is shaped by belief systems, past experiences, internal narratives, and unconscious assumptions. And unless that lens is examined, challenged, and refined, it will distort every new beginning and replicate old patterns in new places. This is why people repeat cycles. They change jobs but experience the same frustrations. They leave relationships but attract the same dysfunction. They enter new seasons but carry the same struggles. The scenery is new, but the outcomes are familiar. It's not that the opportunities weren't real, it's that the mindset wasn't ready. Without an internal shift, external upgrades cannot produce lasting impact. Life ends up being a pattern of movement without maturity, motion without meaning, transition without transformation. True elevation is not simply about going higher geographically or professionally. It's about thinking higher. It's about breaking free from low-level thoughts, fear-based assumptions, and inherited mental scripts that no longer serve your future. It means reprogramming the way you interpret difficulty, redefining how you measure success, and releasing yourself from the mental habits that keep you stuck. Until that work is done, new environments will only expose old limitations. Your external world will always reflect your internal condition. If you want to see something new on the outside, you must cultivate something new on the inside. That means renewing your mind, expanding your vision, and being honest about the thoughts you entertain daily. Your life follows the rhythm of your mind. So when your mind is limited, your life contracts. When your mind is expanded, your life begins to open up in ways that no environment alone could ever produce. Belief systems govern behavior. Every action you take is preceded by a thought, and behind every consistent pattern of behavior is a deep-rooted belief that authorizes it. Whether it's the way you handle relationships, manage finances, approach opportunities, or respond to conflict. Your behavior is shaped and sustained by what you believe to be true about yourself, about others, about life, and about what is possible. People do not simply act randomly or without reason. Even self-destructive behaviors are often supported by hidden beliefs that justify them. This is why it is not enough to try to change actions without first confronting the beliefs that produce those actions. You can discipline yourself temporarily to behave differently, but unless your beliefs change, the old behavior will return. You may force yourself to smile, but if you believe you are unloved, that belief will eventually surface and color your interactions. You may follow a budget for a while, but if you believe that you are destined to always struggle, your financial decisions will reflect that mindset. The power of belief is that it operates even when you're not consciously thinking about it. It becomes a silent engine, directing your responses, influencing your choices, and shaping your identity. Belief systems are powerful because they form the lens through which you interpret reality. They decide what you consider to be normal, acceptable, or possible. They determine what you aim for and what you settle for. If you believe you are not worthy of love, you will avoid healthy relationships or sabotage them when they come. If you believe that success is only for others and not for you, you will find a way to shrink yourself when opportunities arise. These beliefs may be hidden, but they are never inactive. They are constantly informing your behavior and defining your limits. Many people are stuck in patterns not because they lack talent, resources, or opportunity, but because they are loyal to faulty beliefs. These beliefs may have come from past trauma, cultural programming, family upbringing, or repeated failure. Over time, they settle in the subconscious and begin to feel like truth. But just because a belief feels real does not mean it is right. Some people believe they are cursed, doomed, or disqualified, and their lives begin to follow the pattern of those thoughts. Others believe that they are lucky, blessed, or unstoppable, and those beliefs unlock a very different kind of life. This is why permanent change requires more than willpower. It requires belief transformation. You must examine your mental agreements and ask yourself, why do I believe this? Who told me this? Is this true, or is this just familiar? Without this level of internal audit, you will continue to produce the same outcomes even in different seasons. Your behavior always comes back to your belief. If you believe you can grow, you will. If you believe you can change, you will. If you believe that you are called to something greater, you will begin to act like it, prepare for it, and walk in it. But if your beliefs remain small, fearful, or rooted in past pain, then even your best intentions will be undermined by your inner convictions. Everything you tolerate in your life is a reflection of what you believe you deserve. Everything you reach for is a reflection of what you believe is possible. If you want to change your actions, you must change your affirmation. If you want to walk in new outcomes, you must renew your inner dialogue. Start speaking what you desire to believe until it becomes your new default. Repetition rewires the brain, and the brain begins to align with what it consistently hears. When your beliefs are elevated, your behavior will begin to reflect that elevation. What once seemed impossible will become normal, not because the world changed, but because your internal blueprint shifted to match a new level of truth. Renewal requires intentionality. The mind does not change by accident. It does not shift automatically with time, age, or experience. People assume that just because years are passing, growth is happening, but that is a misconception. Maturity is not a function of time, but of intentional transformation. You can be older and still stuck in the same cycles of thought you had years ago. You can have access to more information and still operate from the same fears and insecurities that limited you in the past. Change in the mind happens when there is deliberate effort to challenge old patterns and embrace new truths. Your mind is like a garden. It will grow whatever is planted in it, whether good or bad. If you do not intentionally cultivate it, weeds will take over by default. You don't have to plant weeds, they grow when the soil is left unattended. In the same way, negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, and destructive mental habits grow in an untrained mind. To renew the mind, you must make a conscious decision every day to uproot what doesn't belong and to plant what aligns with your purpose, values, and goals. This takes focus, discipline, and persistence. Intentional renewal means becoming aware of your internal dialogue. What are you saying to yourself when no one else is listening? What are the thoughts that dominate your mornings, your decisions, and your relationships? Most people are not aware of the silent narratives running through their minds, yet these scripts shape how they interpret the world. You cannot change what you are not conscious of. Self-awareness is the first step to transformation. You must slow down long enough to observe your thought patterns, to examine the beliefs that are producing your reactions, and to discern whether those thoughts are serving your growth or sabotaging it. Intentionality also requires that you expose your mind to higher truths on a consistent basis. The quality of information you consume directly impacts the quality of thoughts you produce. If you constantly feed on fear, doubt, gossip, negativity, or entertainment that numbs rather than nourishes, your mind will become dull and reactive. But when you expose yourself to wisdom, purpose, driven teaching, constructive conversations, and content that elevates your thinking, your mental landscape begins to change. What you meditate on shapes what you become. If you want a transformed life, you must start with a transformed information diet. Renewal also demands the humility to admit that some of the things you've believed may be wrong. This is difficult because many people tie their identity to their beliefs. To challenge a belief feels like challenging a part of themselves, but you cannot hold on to lies and grow at the same time. You must be willing to let go of outdated conclusions, false identities, and inherited narratives that no longer reflect truth. This takes courage. It takes the willingness to be uncomfortable for the sake of becoming who you were meant to be. You must also understand that intentional renewal is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong process. Just as the body needs regular exercise and nutrition to stay healthy, the mind needs ongoing development. What worked in a previous season may not work now. What inspired you before may not sustain you today. You have to keep evolving, keep learning, keep stretching. Growth does not happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you challenge yourself, when you ask deeper questions, and when you are willing to confront uncomfortable truths in order to access greater wisdom. There will be resistance. The mind resists change because change requires energy and uncertainty. Old patterns feel safe even if they are harmful because they are familiar, but you must push through that resistance. Intentional renewal means training your mind like an athlete trains the body. Repetition, discipline, and vision. You must keep the end in mind, the kind of person you are becoming, the kind of future you are building, the kind of legacy you want to leave. Every thought you accept or reject is a vote for the future version of you that you are constructing with every passing day. Your mind is the battleground where the most critical battles of your life are fought. While many people focus on external struggles, conflicts with others, financial pressures, health challenges, the real fight happens inside your head. It is within your thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes that the war for your future is decided. The mind is where hope clashes with despair, faith wrestles with fear, and potential confronts limitation. Winning this battle determines not only your peace of mind, but the direction of your entire life. This internal battlefield is often invisible, which makes it all the more dangerous. Unlike external conflicts that can be seen and addressed openly, the struggles within the mind are silent and subtle. Negative thoughts creep in quietly, doubts whisper their lies, and fear plants seeds of paralysis without you even realizing it. These mental battles can be exhausting because they are continuous. Every day, you have to choose which voices you will listen to, which beliefs you will nurture, and which fears you will refuse to entertain. The mind is the command center for your life's decisions. If the mind is overwhelmed, everything else suffers. The reason this battle is so significant is that the mind controls your perception of reality. Two people can experience the same event, but respond in completely different ways because their minds are engaged in different battles. One person's mind is fighting to stay hopeful and courageous, while another's is surrendering to defeat and resignation. Your circumstances do not determine your destiny, your mind does. You can be in the midst of chaos, but remain peaceful because your mind is anchored in faith and clarity. Conversely, you can be in a favorable environment yet feel overwhelmed because your mind is clouded with confusion and fear. Understanding that the mind is a battleground helps you realize why control over your thoughts is essential. You must be intentional about what you allow to take residence in your mind. Thoughts are like soldiers. You decide which ones to recruit and which ones to dismiss. When negative, limiting, or destructive thoughts gain ground, they influence your emotions, your actions, and ultimately your outcomes. But when you feed your mind with truth, hope, and empowering beliefs, you create a fortress of strength that protects your progress and pushes you forward despite obstacles. Part of winning the battle of the mind involves recognizing the enemy's tactics. The enemy, whether it is doubt, fear, past failure, or negative self-talk, often attacks through subtle lies. It tells you that you are not good enough, that you will never succeed, or that change is impossible. These lies are weapons designed to weaken your resolve and steal your vision. But just as a soldier trains to recognize the enemy's moves, you must learn to identify these lies as soon as they surface and reject them decisively. This battle also requires discipline. Just as a soldier cannot fight effectively without training, your mind cannot win without consistent effort. You have to practice controlling your thoughts, redirecting your focus, and renewing your mental energy. This means being aware of triggers that lead to negative thinking and having strategies to counteract them. Whether through prayer, meditation, affirmations, or seeking support from trusted mentors. The battle is ongoing, and victory comes through perseverance. Finally, it's important to realize that you are not alone in this fight. Everyone faces mental battles, even those who appear strong on the outside. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail often lies in how they manage their internal conflicts. Those who win learn to master their minds, to harness their thoughts toward purpose, and to refuse defeat before the battle is over. They build mental resilience that carries them through storms and positions them for breakthroughs. The battleground of the mind is where heroes are made or broken, and the choice of victory always begins with a decision to take control of your inner world. Ultimately, the journey of transformation begins not with changing what is around you, but with changing what is within you. Your mind is the root from which every experience, every decision, and every outcome grows. Until you intentionally renew your thinking, confront limiting beliefs, and wage the internal battle to reclaim your thoughts, external change will remain elusive or temporary. True progress is born in the mind when you choose to see differently, believe differently, and act differently. When your mind changes, everything changes. That is the key to unlocking your purpose, fulfilling your potential, and stepping boldly into the life you were created to live.